Hillsborough Television News Breaks, connecting you to county events.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here today. It's been almost 2 years after the horrendous killings of 20 first graders and 6 adults in Newtown, Connecticut. I, like everyone else, felt sickened, angry, and frustrated. For weeks after that event, the media and the country continued to focus on the events there and how to prevent mass shootings. That was natural. It was a horrific event. But I also began to realize that the focus on mass shootings was displaced. To put it in context, last year, for the entire year, about 137 people were killed in 30 mass shootings across the country. Now, that's an unacceptable number. Any shooting of innocent people is unacceptable. But that number is dwarfed by some other numbers that are even more disturbing. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that in 2011, the last year for which data is available, 16,238 people were murdered in the U.S. That's 45 people every single day. According to the Department of Justice, 2.1 million people are assaulted every year by an intimate partner. In 2011, 1,570 children died from abuse or neglect. That's an average of more than 4 a day. Here in Hillsborough County, violent crime has been falling since 2008, but it still occurs far too often. In 2012, 4,570 violent crimes were reported, along with over 7,000 cases of domestic violence and over 10,000 reports of child abuse. Violence remains a huge problem and continues to plague our communities, to harm and frighten our children and our citizens. Now, traditionally, the responsibility of violence prevention has been placed on the shoulders of law enforcement. But law enforcement alone cannot solve the problem of violence in Hillsborough County or anywhere else in this country. We cannot arrest our way out of this problem. Now, we know this, and my law enforcement colleagues that are here today have been a vital part of the work of the Violence Prevention Collaborative. We all agree. We need to prevent violence before the assaults, the shootings, the killings occur. Now, our plan is based on the understanding that violence can be prevented. It can be prevented when all a community, government agencies, community organizations, and civic and faith-based leaders come together to pursue data-driven, evidence-based strategies that address violence as a public health issue. That's been the philosophy guiding the work of the Violence Prevention Collaborative since we formed it a year ago. In the course of that year, we have done a great deal of planning and analysis in partnership with the Prevention Institute and have laid the foundation for the concerted work that we stand now ready to pursue. Behind me, you will see that we have produced heat maps. Heat maps of the county that show the prevalence of poverty, truancy, domestic violence, child abuse, and violent crime, all risk factors associated with community violence, and label them in zip codes throughout the county. These maps pinpoint areas where prevention resources should be targeted in the next phase of the collaborative's work. We have conducted a survey of more than 3,000 young people in our schools, detention facilities, and adult education programs. We learned from the preliminary results, and Dr. Coulter will speak to those, and shortly, that many young people feel isolated and without adequate support and feel unsafe in their communities because they fear gang violence. We also learn that the vast majority feels a sense of belonging at their school, a connection that positions the schools to be a key part of a comprehensive violence prevention effort. And now I'd like to invite my colleagues to add their specific comments. And first, I'd like to invite Robert Blunt, President of A. Brown Ministries and co-chair of the faith-based community of the Violence Prevention Collaborative. Mr. Blunt.
More than 38 years ago, our founder, Reverend Abraham Brown, picked up a newspaper only to discover and read where one of his former football players had been charged with the murder of a cab driver. He was devastated. He wondered where he went wrong. He went to see this young man in the county jail before he was sentenced to prison. It was there at the county jail that then Coach Brown developed his conviction that he had taught young men to play football, but perhaps could have done a better job of teaching these young men how to live their lives. For the past 38 years, A. Brown Ministries has been providing services to the incarcerated people and supporting them in their transition out of jails and prisons back into the community. Today, this work is known as the work of reentry. Reentry is one of the top risk factors in preventing community violence. Those of us working in community and faith-based organizations who are trying to improve things in our communities are leading and bleeding at the same time. We're fighting for survival, and it's hard to focus on a long-term plan when you're fighting to keep the doors open. Yet, for the past year, I've been honored to be a part of the Violence Prevention Collaborative as a member of the steering committee and co-chair of the Faith-Based Organizations Committee. I've been extremely impressed by the process we've gone through. I've been extremely impressed through the work we've accomplished and the level of commitment of those who've been a part of this movement. I've also been inspired by the coordination and participation of key leaders and key decision makers in the community. There weren't a whole lot of people sending underling representatives to participate in these meetings, and I believe that really boosts the chances of getting things done. This has been a data-driven process, and that's extremely important. I'm sort of an analytical person. I like to dive into data, do my due diligence, then go where the data takes us. This has not been an anecdotal process. The data has helped us to prioritize, especially data from the schools. And it tells us that we could do a better job making sure our young people go to school, stay in school, and get the support they need to succeed in school. Reverend Brown always said, when you know better, then you do better. We know there's a huge correlation between lack of education and incarceration. We know that most people in prison read at a 7th or 8th grade level. And we know that when you look at math and reading scores, too many are scoring at levels that are not satisfactory. When more than a quarter high school students don't graduate, we know that's far too many. We can do a better job of educating our children, and when we do better, we can improve public safety. And when we improve public safety, we improve the health and wellness of those living in our community. At A. Brown Ministries, we're implementing a new reentry model called Ready for Work. Ready for Work is a nationally acclaimed workforce development program for men and women leaving incarceration. We're excited about this new approach, and we're also very excited to be working together with Hillsborough County Public Schools on this effort. When we gainfully employ more men and women, mothers and fathers in the community, we can reduce recidivism. When we reduce recidivism, we reduce violence. Individuals who are employed are less likely to commit crime, yet unemployment is exponentially higher for the offender population. The need for reentry services is glaring. Now, the Violence Prevention Collaborative is moving from the strategic planning phase to the tactical phase. We've been led by the data. Now we're putting our resources forward and identifying individuals who can lead this effort going forward, including staff. We have our work cut out for us over the next 5 years. What's exciting is that members of this collaborative, from the Board of County Commissioners to faith-based and nonprofits in the community, are putting resources together to contribute to this effort. So I thank Commissioner Bechter and the entire Board of County Commissioners for investing in one of the areas that it is needed most. When you have some skin in the game, you take ownership of the outcomes. You roll up your sleeves and you deliver on those outcomes. In the spirit of the late community pastor, Reverend Abraham Brown, now that we all know better, then together we all can do better. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of Sheriff G, I'd first like to thank Commissioner Beckner for getting the ball rolling on this project. The Sheriff's Office is extremely proud to be part of this collaborative. You see a small number of us here today, but what's important to know is that there were so many people involved in this process throughout the entire faction, and it was from different parts of our community, so we know this is going to be a success. The Sheriff's Office, like our other law enforcement agencies here, we work on reducing crime and making our neighborhoods safe. But as the Commissioner said, we can't arrest our way out of every situation. We need to identify the root causes of these problems, identify solutions, and make sure people have the resources necessary so that we can work on preventing the crimes from happening in the first place. The Sheriff's Office has seen the positive impact programs like this can have with our own program, the Freddie Solomon Boys and Girls Club in the Nucio Park area. Not only have we seen crime being reduced, but the community's involved. People are talking, looking out for one another, and caring what happens to their neighbors. So we know this can work, but it's going to require support from every aspect of our community. It's something that has to be done together in order for it to be successful. And we feel that we've established a framework with this, with Safe and Sound. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. The Tampa Police Department is honored to be a part of this program. And as Colonel Luzinski and myself know, after being involved in law enforcement for as many years as we have, that it is a failure on everyone's part when citizens become involved in the criminal justice system. And we have worked very well together in this community to try to prevent crime, but I applaud Commissioner Beckner's efforts in bringing everyone together to collectively address the issues of violent crime, specifically the prevention of that. We're learning more and more about the effects of trauma on our youth in the community and how that has repercussions all the way into adulthood and quite often guides them into a life of crime and then into incarceration. So to have the mental health, the social services, to have a focus on education, to have a focus on reentry, anything that we can do to prevent our citizens from becoming involved in the criminal justice system is very important, I know, for Sheriff G and for myself as well. So I applaud the efforts. I am also very glad to see that this program is a data-driven program where we are getting solid information, actionable information that we can use to make our community safer for everyone. So again, thank you, Commissioner Beckner, for allowing us to be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Beckner, for involving us in this. The Harrell Center at the University of South Florida's College of Public Health has a mission to conduct research in the areas of violence and family violence and translate it in ways that make it usable for practitioners, particularly in ways that will help to guide prevention and intervention efforts. We partner with community agencies to do the research that will provide the information that they need to develop policies and programs. Public health is particularly focused on the prevention of problems and the issues that put communities and the population at risk for problems, and also the things that protect them from problems. And this is the role that we have played with the Hillsborough County Violence Prevention Collaborative. We believe that prevention efforts need to be grounded in good data, as Chief Castor just mentioned, and based in evidence, and this collaborative has based its work on precisely that philosophy. This is one of the exciting things about the Hillsborough County Collaborative effort. Members of this collaborative wanted to understand more about the attitudes and concerns of young people, so they put together and distributed a survey to youth age 14 to 19 here in Hillsborough County, in 27 county schools, in classes in the county adult education program, in a court diversion program, and in a court-involved detention program. They distributed more than 3,500 of these surveys. They got almost 2,000 back, a very healthy rate of 57%. Somewhat more girls than boys responded to this questionnaire. We were asked to perform an analysis of the data. While these results are still very preliminary, we have much more analysis of the data to perform. Some trends have already emerged. Many young people in Hillsborough County, sizable minorities, do not yet feel a sense of cohesion or support in their community. About a third don't feel adults in their neighborhood look out for children or teenagers to make sure they're safe and they stay out of trouble. About the same number don't feel that people in their neighborhood have the opportunities that they need to meet and work together to solve community problems. Many students, about a third, believe that their neighborhood has problems with graffiti, with deserted homes, and storefronts, with drug sales, with gunshots and shootings. And the majority said they would go outside more if their neighborhoods were safer. Over half of the students said that they have used alcohol or drugs more than 40 times in their lives. These numbers suggest that many children have multiple experiences that are risk factors for violence. They point to the kinds of social interventions we need to make as a community to reduce the likelihood that these young people will be victims or perpetrators of violence in the future. But one other result stands out to me, and this is a very positive result. 98% of the children feel a sense of belonging at their school, and over 90% feel that very strongly. In addition, the majority mostly or always feel safe in the school building. That's what we call a protective factor. It positions the schools to be a central part of implementing preventive programs and suggests that programs that build on or are based in the schools are likely to be trusted by the teens. Most of the children also said they had a parent or adult they could talk to about their problems and who was interested in their schoolwork. As I said before, these are only the first preliminary data. We still have much analysis to do, but two of the points I think are very powerful. The first is the extremely positive response about the schools, both feelings of belonging and of safety. The second is the fact that children don't think that people in their community right now have the opportunity enough to meet and work together to solve community problems that we need to tackle. Both of these point us in a positive direction towards preventing violence in Hillsborough County. Thank you again for letting us be a part of this.
So thank you again, Commissioner Beckner, for including the school district in this initiative. Clearly, the schools play a major role in this effort. We are in a unique position to work with youth and families. We are in all of your communities. And we have developed healthy partnerships with the agencies and organizations that can make a difference. Those partnerships have done nothing but grow stronger in the past year due to our involvement in the Violence Prevention Collaborative. As Commissioner Beckner said, the VPC grew out of our collective sense of shock and frustration in the wake of the school shootings in Newtown. We as a community have not experienced that kind of horrific violence that some other communities have, but we certainly are not immune to violence and its effect on all communities. The VPC is all about being proactive, making decisions based on data, and building relationships and strengthening the relationships that are already in existence. I am encouraged to see the preliminary results of the survey and what they say about our schools. As Dr. Coulter said, the preliminary results suggest that students feel a sense of belonging at school and often don't have the same level of comfort in their own neighborhoods. What that says to me is that we in the school district have an enormous responsibility to be proactive and make a difference. Recently, our school district applied for a U.S. Department of Education grant called Project Prevent. The goal is to help schools and communities with pervasive violence to better address the needs of affected students. We are attempting to break the cycle of violence. This can have a positive impact on schools, law enforcement, our court system, and many of our partner agencies. Thank you again, Commissioner Beckner, for your support and the letter that you wrote for the Project Promise grant. In the past year, working with the VPC, I've become more convinced than ever that violence is preventable and that our community is full of smart, talented, dedicated people who, when working collaboratively, can make a huge difference. Thank you again.
I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. I want to thank everybody who has spent the last year working on this project. This has truly been a community effort. And as I have told people when they ask what's next going forward, we are just at our beginning stages. So this is a 5-year pilot project that we are launching now. And so now the real work begins. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming out here, and would be happy, and as well as the other collaborative members, to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
For more news and information, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or watch us on YouTube. This program was brought to you by Hillsborough Television. Visit our website at htvonline.org.